Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you some Gothtober book recommendations that fit the Angel Board prompts. So I'm going to be going through all of the Angel Board prompts and recommending you 2 books that I've read and enjoyed for each prompt. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that for Gothtober we do have some candles which are being supplied by Becca's candle shop, and you can get a candle per team. So there is the death candle, the demon candle and the angel scented candle. They all look absolutely amazing and the scents just sound absolutely delicious. So if you would like to get yourself a candle, I have a link down below to where you can buy them from Becca's shop. But without further ado, let's get down to the book recommendations. So for the first prompt, I've got monochrome cover, and I'm going to be recommending books that have only black and white on their cover. The first one I'm going to be recommending you is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is a beautiful book that I love very, very much. It follows a young boy whose mother is dying of a terminal illness, and at night this monster comes and visits him and tells him stories with truths to them. And I just thought this was an absolutely beautiful portrayal of grief. It was emotionally heavy, and the way that the storytelling wove into the plot of the book was absolutely fantastic. Could not recommend this book more. The next one I want to recommend for monochrome cover is Noughts and Crosses by Malorie Blackman, which is one of my all-time favourite young adult series. It's a book that flips the oppression of racism. So instead of the black characters being the oppressed, it is the white characters who are oppressed and the black characters who have privilege. And in it we follow Sephi and Callum, who fall in love despite the difference of their races. And this has consequences. What I found very interesting about this book when I was younger was the way that it flipped the racism, it flipped the oppression status of the races, so that you can really see how racism is a bit ridiculous and how racism and discrimination can just fit into absolutely anything, and it's not got anything to do with the race of the actual person. It's all about bigotry and horrible people. Then for large friendship group, I'll be recommending you The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. You had to see that coming. I just had to recommend this one for this prompt. The Raven Boys also has a few creepy vibes to it, so it definitely fits for Gothtober. In this one we follow these boys who belong to this school, and one of them is intent on searching for a dead king, because if you wake him up he grants you one wish. And at the same time there is Blue, who has been told her whole life that if she kisses her true love he will die. And it's about what happens when those two people, well, the group of boys and Blue, come together and their quest to find this dead Welsh king. I love this series with my whole heart. Please go and read it for this prompt. Another book for large friendship group that I'm going to be recommending is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And I love this one because it's got some Shakespeare inspiration to it, as well as a large, complex friendship dynamic. In this one, we follow these drama students who are at this very prestigious school, and they are putting on Shakespeare productions this year, but within their large friendship group something happens that ends up with one of them in jail, and this book is about what happened and what led to this event happening and what happened directly afterwards. And I absolutely loved it. I loved all of the Shakespeare references and how they chose to weave it in. I loved the dark academia feels, and I know it's a book with a lot of, prestigious boys in it and prestigious girls, but I was kind of here for all of that drama as well. Next, I'll be recommending books for the prompt of consequences, and the first one I want to recommend is the beautiful gothic book Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Follow this main character who seems a bit naive and unsure about life, and she decides to marry this wealthy man who has a large manor and estate. Even though people tell her that it'll be a bit too much for her, she decides to marry him, and of course this has some interesting consequences, because when she moves to the estate it seems like not everybody wants her there, and she can't seem to escape out of the ghost of the wife that came before her. I love this book. It's definitely got those creepy vibes to it. It's very cleverly and masterfully written. The writing is truly beautiful. I love Miss Danvers in this book, and I also love the way that the manor in the house just seems to fall into the story itself. It's not exactly a sentient house, but it kind of has some edgy vibes to it. And the way that the plot went was a direction I did not expect, and it was absolutely riveting to read. I'm also going to be recommending a graphic novel that you can whiz through, and that is Saga by Vaughan and Fiona Staples, and this is a series that I've been reading and especially loving lately. You follow this galaxy where a war is going on, and there's two sides to this war, and a man from one side and a woman from one side happen to fall in love and have a child. But having a child in this time of war has consequences, because this child becomes a symbol of peace, which means both sides of the war want to eradicate this child, and of course the parents want their child to be safe. So they are trying to run through the galaxy and keep away from everyone who wants to kill them and their child. So there was definitely consequences to them falling in love, and I've just been enjoying seeing parents in this brutal science fiction adventure. It's been so much fun. I want to recommend some books for biblical references. So the first one I'm going to recommend is a manga series called Death Note, and this one is also in anime. And in this one, there's these death notes that exist. They are held by the gods of death. And what they do is they write someone's name in it, and that person will die because they are the gods of death. This is what they're supposed to do. But one god of death gets very bored and he drops his notebook down to earth, where a teenager finds it and decides that he is going to start using the death note to mete out justice among criminals. It turns into this whole thing where you question the morals of what is right and what is wrong, and who deserves to cast judgment and who doesn't. But also it does fit into biblical references, because the gods of death love to eat apples. And this is very significant because apples are often a symbol of life. Apples are often a fruit of temptation. Apples are also often a fruit of knowledge, and that comes from the biblical story, the Garden of Eden. So it's quite symbolic. It's a very interesting symbolic choice that the god of death likes to eat apples, and that's why I'm recommending it for this prompt. The other book that I'm going to be recommending is Paradise Lost by John Milton, and this one is a classic novel in verse, kind of the classic version of a novel in verse. And it's about when the angels fall from heaven, the temptation of the Garden of Eden, and yeah, it's all about that. It's quite a big book, so if you're going to be tackling this in Gothtober, it might be the only book you read, and I wouldn't blame you, but I really love this classic and really recommend it, and it's full of biblical references. So for LGBT plus rep, one of the books that I'm going to be recommending you is The Confession, which is a book that's got dual timelines, and I really enjoyed reading earlier this year. We follow this author who is very reclusive and keeps to herself in the present day timeline, and this adult finds out that she knows a lot about what happened to her mother in the past, and she decides that she's going to try and get this reclusive author to tell her what happened. And then we whiz back to the past, where we see that author as younger, and she is in a relationship with someone, and that relationship seems to change depending on the fame of the author. And you follow those two timelines to figure out what happened in the past, what led to these circumstances, and what consequences they might have in the present day timeline. I thought this was just such an interesting story. I loved seeing where everything went. I thought it was written very well, and the characters were so realistic and complex that I couldn't help but feel for them. I didn't agree with all of their choices, but I definitely related to these characters and really saw them as real, especially the author, who we get to see in the present day timeline but also in the past. So I really recommend that one. And the other one that I would like to recommend is Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender. This is a young adult contemporary book where we follow a trans teenager, and he is just trying his best to get ready to go to university, to figure out his own love life, and to chill with his friends in his final year before university kicks off, when somebody puts up an exhibition at school featuring him and photos of him pre-transition, and he starts to receive threats online, and he's trying to figure out who has done this so that he can make them pay. and I thought this was a very, very good contemporary. I really, really liked it. I liked the messiness of teenagers. I thought that was very accurately represented, and I also really liked learning more about the trans experience and also some other queer experiences that I hadn't before known about. So it was a very enlightening read for me, and I really, really recommend this contemporary. Next, we're moving on to the Sentient House prompt, and one of the books that I recommend for the Sentient House prompt is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This one could have also fit the LGBT plus prompt because we've got a trans main character and a trans author. Definitely one of the best books I've read this year. It's a young adult book which is set in a world where monsters no longer exist, and the definition of monsters is quite unique. A monster could be a billionaire who's intent on not sharing their money with anyone. A monster could be an offender, just literally these very real life depictions of what a monster is. A monster is kind of a metaphor, but all of the monsters are not in existence in their town anymore. However, our main character discovers that there might be one more monster left, and she employs the help of Pet to hunt down this monster and bring it to justice, I would say. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. The writing in this book is so beautiful and metaphorical, but also very grounded at the same time. I loved the friendship in this. The friendship is one of the key features, and it was so lovely to see. It was great to see a young adult book where the parents are very involved with their child and their children and really care about them, and the house is a bit sentient, and I enjoyed that extra touch to it. And the other Sentient House book I'm going to recommend, I'm sorry that I'm still talking about this book, but I just loved The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson so very much. It's quite your classic horror, and it's about these people who hear that this house is haunted, so they decide to go there as a group to discover if it's truly haunted or not. It sounds like the recipe for disaster. Why on earth would you do that? But they discover that it very well might be. And it was fantastic. I really liked the characters, I liked the banter that they had, I liked this creepy sentient house, and I thought the ending of the book was very, very satisfying. For enlightenment, I'm going to be recommending a non-fiction book and a fiction book. So for a fiction book, I'm going to be recommending Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is one of the Afrofuturism series that I really, really like. And Binti is the first novella which you can easily fly through. It's about this teenager who is tribal, and she decides that she really wants to go to this university even though her tribe says she should not go. And she does go, but along her journey of getting there, a tragedy happens, and it's all about colonialism and what happens and how Binti deals with it. I'm keeping it quite vague because it's a very quick read and I could give away everything in a few words. I'm going to try not to do that, but I'm keeping it for enlightenment because of the fact that it's focused around education, and I feel like education is a very enlightening thing, and Binti herself goes through a lot of enlightenment in terms of her own identity and in terms of what she thinks is right or wrong and how she learns to speak up for herself. So definitely enlightenment focused. And as a non-fiction, I'm going to be recommending you read The Good Immigrant, which is a collection of essays edited by Nikesh Shukla, and I think I'm fitting this one in for the enlightenment prompt because it could enlighten you as a reader to the immigrant experience. So this one is written by a group of authors who are immigrants to the UK, so they've come from other places and they're talking about their experiences. And we've got a range of authors here. We've got queer authors, we've got people of colour, and they're just all talking about the different experiences that they've had in terms of being an immigrant, when it comes to what their parents had to face, what they've had to face, what it means about seeing yourself finally represented in media for the first time, or their jobs and careers and what it's like as the token black person in an acting career, or just anything like that. It really went across a whole range of experiences, and I thought it was fantastic. Very well written in terms of all of their essays and well worth people reading. For BIPOC rep, I've got both authors and characters. So the first one I want to recommend is Black Water Sister by Zen Cho. This was a book that I really had so much fun with. We follow our main character who is unemployed just from university, and she moves to Asia with her parents from America, and while she's there she starts to hear the voice of her dead grandmother who wants her to do some certain things for her that involves the gods and what they're telling her and what they want. And this one was just so much fun because it goes into a mythology that I didn't know anything about before. We've got a lesbian main character. She's got a girlfriend but she's closeted, so she's kind of working through that and dealing with that. She's trying to find her job. She's also got parents who are going through a difficult financial and health time, as well as this whole mythology thing going on and all of the supernatural, and her connection to her grandma was just so much fun to read about. The way that they sass each other, but the way that they end up caring about each other was just beautiful to see. I love seeing young characters interact with elderly characters, and I feel like I don't see that enough in the young adult, new adult age range, and it was just so much fun. Really recommend this one. And the other one I'm recommending is a novella if you want something quick to whiz through, and that is The Black God's Drums by P. Djeli Clark. And this one is set in this Afrofuturist world which kind of combines history and the future at the same time. And you follow our main character who has the voice of Oya, this goddess, talking to her and telling her to do certain things. But what she really wants to do is gain passage on an airship so that she can travel and explore the world. And she might just have the opportunity to do that when she comes across a captain who happens to have a goddess talking to her as well. And I just thought this was a very enjoyable novella. I thought the world building was done very well for something that is so short, and it was just so interesting to see them both develop their identities, come into their own, and where the story went. And then we've got books for the last bookish prompt. So for the disability prompt, I'm recommending you read A Curse So Dark and Lonely. It's a book that I love so very much by Bridget Kemmerer. And it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, or at least it starts off that way, and we follow our main character who gets dragged into a fantasy world. She has cerebral palsy, and while she's there she encounters Ren, who is ruling over a broken kingdom, and he also has a curse and needs to break it before the next season, otherwise things could go very wrong. And I just thought it was a great book. I love the characters. I loved Harper. I thought she was very down to earth, very strong main character who had a lot of sass, had a lot of wits and smarts in a way that I feel like I haven't seen in other Beauty and the Beast retellings. And I also loved Grey, who is this bodyguard, who is loyal, who is strong, who is really cute. So definitely recommend you go and meet him. And it was really nice to see the world building and to see beyond the palace a little bit and see what it's like for the peasants living in such a broken kingdom. So I really recommend that book. And I would also recommend Monstress, which is this graphic novel series I absolutely adore, where we follow a disabled main character who lives in a very intricately drawn fantasy world. The graphic novel is absolutely stunning. And in this one, she is trying to discover more about a past with her mother, while also gathering the pieces to this mask that seems to have supernatural powers. And she has a monster that she doesn't quite understand that is quite dangerous living within her. So she's got all of that to contend with, plus the politics of the world, and I love this graphic novel. The first one's a bit confusing, but just keep with it because it all makes sense eventually, and it's just a beautiful, wild ride. The last prompt is Angel or Demon TV series. So of course you're supposed to be watching something with angels in it, and I'm not the biggest watcher of things. I'm struggling to think of TV series and films that I've really loved that have angels in it. I started watching Supernatural but didn't finish it, but it does have angels in it from what I know. Drop Dead Diva definitely has angels in it. And at the moment I'm watching Good Omens, which I don't particularly recommend, but it's also got angels in it. So if you needed some ideas, those are some, but what you can do in the comments down below is tell me something that I should be watching during Gothtober, a film or a TV series that has angels in it, because I need some recommendations for that. I hope this video was useful and gave you some recommendations. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!